So there was this one time when I was like 12 years old, right? My mom had just bought me a music box for Christmas. I remember that because it was the only present that I actually liked. She got me a sweater. Who gets their kid a sweater for Christmas? But anyways, I loved this music box. It was a ballerina music box, but instead of a ballerina, it had this spooky witch in it. And she would rise out of this like cauldron with a little book, and then she'd cackle maniacally while the music played. And then once the music stopped, she'd go back into her little hole. And it was like this whole production. I thought it was amazing, and I would lay in bed at night listening to the music box. And then one night I had this dream. And in the dream, I was in this like abandoned house, and it was dark and creepy. And then all of a sudden I heard this song playing. And it wasn't any song that I knew, but it was just this like sad, eerie lullaby. And I remember feeling so scared, like heart pounding in my chest, couldn't breathe. And then I started running through the house trying to find where the song was coming from. And I could hear the song getting louder and louder, and it sounded like it was coming from inside the walls. And then I woke up in a cold sweat, and I remember thinking, wow, that was the most realistic dream I've ever had. And then I heard this like faint sound of music playing, and I turned on my lamp and I looked over at the music box, and it was playing the exact same song that I had heard in my dream. Now, I didn't believe in ghosts or anything like that, and I still don't. But something about this was really unsettling. It's like, why did I have this dream, and why was the music box playing the exact same song? Anyways, I tried to get back to sleep, but I kept hearing the song in my head. So I got out of bed and went downstairs to get a glass of water. And then I started hearing the song in the pipes, like as the water was running. And then I turned on all the lights and everything seemed fine. I went back to bed and I fell asleep without a problem. Then the next morning I told my mom about the music box and how it was playing the exact same song that I heard in my dream. And she said, "Oh yeah, that song. It always plays that song." And I said, "No, it doesn't. Last night it was playing the same song that I heard in my dream." She said, No, that's impossible. You're just making things up." I could tell that she was annoyed that I was even talking about this. So I just dropped it and I didn't bring it up again. But then that night I had the exact same dream. I was in that creepy house and I heard the song. And then I woke up and the music box was playing the song again. This kept happening over and over again. Every night I'd have the same dream, and then the music box would play the song in my room afterwards. I remember telling my mom about it every night because I was so scared. But every morning she would just tell me that it was impossible and that I was making things up. And then every night it kept happening. And then one night I had enough. I was so angry at my mom. I was so frustrated because she wouldn't believe me. I was so scared because of the dream and the music box. So I went to her and I said, "Mom, you have to believe me. This is not normal. This is not okay. I need your help." And she just looked at me and she said, "You're being ridiculous. It's just a music box. Just ignore it and it'll stop." And then she walked away. So I went to my room crying and I shut the door. Then I looked at the music box and I started screaming at it. I was like, "Shut up, you stupid box. Stop playing your stupid song. Go away." And then I threw the music box across the room and it landed in the corner and it stopped playing. And then I felt so bad because now I knew that I was overreacting. But I was so scared I didn't want to go to sleep, so I stayed up all night watching TV. And then in the morning after, of course, not sleeping at all, I went downstairs to eat breakfast, and my mom asked me if I was gone. "Nah, finish that music box." And I said, "What do you mean?" And she said, "Well, you threw it pretty hard last night. I'm surprised it's not broken." And then she went to the corner and picked it up and it was completely destroyed. The glass was shattered everywhere. The witch's head was off and the whole thing was just a pile of garbage. And I started crying again and I said, "It wasn't me. Someone broke it." She just gave me this look and she shook her head and she left. That's when I knew that she didn't believe me. She thought I was crazy. And then that night I had the worst dream of my life. I was in that same house and the song started playing and I started running, and then I saw my mom standing in the hallway. She was beckoning with her finger for me to come over, and I started walking towards her, and then I woke up and the music box was playing the song. I shot out of bed and I ran to the music box and I was like, "Why are you playing the song? Why won't you stop playing the song?" And then I looked at the music box and it wasn't even plugged in. And then I started hearing the song coming from my closet. So I opened the closet door and there was nothing in the closet. And then I started hearing the song coming from under my bed. and then I looked under my bed and there was nothing there. And then I started hearing the song coming from behind the wall. Then I started banging on the wall and screaming, "Why won't you stop? Why won't you stop?" And then my mom started banging on my door and she was like, "What are you doing? What are you doing? Are you crazy?" I just kept screaming, "Why won't you stop?" Then she finally opened the door and she looked at me and she said, "There's nothing there. There's nothing there. You're making this up." And then I could see the fear in her eyes and it made me feel so powerful. I was like, "No, you don't understand. It's real. It's real." And then I could see the realization dawn on her face and she started screaming, "Oh God, oh God, oh God." And then everything went black. I woke up in my bed and my mom was kneeling next to me and she was crying. She said, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't believe you. I'm so sorry." And then she told me that she called someone and they came and took the music box away. And then she left to go run errands. And then when she came back, the nightmare was gone. And I never heard that song again. I know that some people might think that this is just a story about a haunted music box, but for me, it's more than that. It's a story about the importance of believing those who are suffering. Sometimes we think that we know what's best for our loved ones, but we need to be willing to listen to them and believe them, especially when they're scared. If I had listened to my mom and just ignored the music box, who knows what would have happened? Maybe the nightmare would have continued, or maybe something worse would have happened. We'll never know. But I do know that we need to be careful of the things that we choose to ignore. They may seem small and insignificant, but they could be hiding something much bigger. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time.